Can you talk to our students a little bit about how to DM a recruiter?
Rule number one, don't make it weird. Don't make it weird. Like, I get and respect that students are trying anything and everything they can to stand out. Sometimes you stand out in a bad way.
Welcome back to the New College Perspective. If you're a college student feeling stressed and confused about how to land a job or internship, you're not the only one. But today we are changing that. In this episode, I am joined by Jaylyn Jones, a campus recruiter with years of experience helping students just like you stand out and get hired. We're talking about exactly what recruiters are looking for, how to message them on LinkedIn, how to approach networking and referrals the right way, what to do with your Handshake account, interview prep, and so much more. Stick around to the end where Jaylyn shares some amazing early career programs that you need to know about. Hi, I'm Jerica, and I create videos and online courses to help students succeed in college. So hit that subscribe button and let's get into the episode. Jaylyn, I want to thank you for coming on the New College Perspective. This is going to be a great conversation. Like, Jaylyn is an amazing person. I've already introed her, but welcome. How are you today? How are things going?
I'm good. I am surprisingly more energetic than I thought I would be on no coffee, but it's a high vibe day. It might be gloomy outside, but I'm going to bring the sunshine as a California girl.
I am so excited for our conversation. When you said yes, because I slid into Jaylyn's DMs and LinkedIn. I was just like, hey, so... And then she responded. She was like, yes. I was like, oh my gosh, Jaylyn said yes. She's going to come on the show. I'm just so excited to talk to you about all things campus recruiting, and just, you are always on the platform with just so much great information. So let's talk about campus recruiting, misconceptions. What do students get wrong or don't understand when they think about campus recruiting?
So I think one of the tricky things for students to navigate is they struggle with figuring out who is quote unquote their recruiter. So I'll get a lot of messages from students, especially like when I was in Texas, being like, hey, my name is such and such. I'm so excited because I want to work at JP Morgan in Dallas. And I'm like, hey, yeah, so I live in Texas. I don't actually recruit for any roles in Texas. I recruit for New York. I recruit for Columbus. Yes. I recruit for these other teams. So where the recruiter is physically located might not be correlated to what you as a student are trying to get connected with. The other thing that students would also do is say, hey, I go to the University of Michigan. Who is the recruiter for the University of Michigan?
Yeah.
And I think we used to see back when, campus recruiting was really heavily about who is going to campus, there was more of that okay, this recruiter covers these schools and this recruiter covers these schools in these states, sort of breaking up in how recruiters handle coverage. As virtual events have become more common, as sort of teams have sort of shifted their landscape in order to serve a wider population of students, we're starting to see more function specific coverage from recruiters. So I hire for all of the product management roles at Duolingo. I hire for all of the software engineering interns, regardless of if they're going to be in Pittsburgh or if they're going to be in New York, regardless of if they go to UC Berkeley or if they go to Brown. Coast to coast, if you were applying to these specific programs, you would be one of my candidates, versus where companies used to have more of we go to these 20 schools and we've got 5 recruiters, and each of these 5 recruiters has 4 of those schools.
Yeah. So then I guess, okay, so if a student, how would you suggest a student reach out if they're okay, they found a campus recruiter, it's not the function that they are, looking for. Could that campus recruiter connect them to the person that is actually hiring for the function that maybe they're really going after? Does it work like that? Is there a web like that, or is that another misconception?
Good question. So typically I would say, people are able to kind of point you in the right direction, but there's also ways as a student to try and sort of narrow that funnel down. So what I often see students make mistakes is they're getting on LinkedIn and they're saying, I want to work at Apple. And so I'm
Mhm.
going to search recruiter at Apple, and they'll
Mhm.
hit anybody that's a recruiter at Apple, anybody
Mhm.
that's got recruiting in their title. They done
Mhm.
messaged recruiting ops. They done messaged the head of recruiting, the recruiting
Yes.
coordinator.
Yes.
They're just like not sure. So
Mhm.
here's my pro tip. It's a lesson. I want you to lock in, take notes. So the
Yes.
titles we're looking for: university recruiter, campus recruiter, early careers recruiter are kind of
Mm.
our like big three.
Mhm.
And then pay attention to what each of those people, what are they posting about? They're most likely to post about the things they cover. If you are looking for design internships at Duolingo,
Mhm.
I know for a fact that if you look at all three of our profiles, it's going to be real clear which is the person for design and which
Mhm.
one's not. The other
Mhm.
place to look, sometimes if you look at their like LinkedIn profile, people
Mhm.
might put it either in their about section or under their work experience, sort of what they recruit for. So
Mm.
those are like big areas. And then I'll also give the folks my other cheat code. Find people who have posted about accepting the offers that you want in the future. So if you were like, I want to be an investment banking intern at X
Mhm.
company, go find the posts. Those, oh, I'm so proud to announce posts from the people that did it last summer.
Mhm.
Bet you they tagged their recruiter.
Mhm.
Bet you the
Hmm.
recruiter is in the comments going,
Mhm.
it was so great
Mhm.
to have you this summer.
Mhm.
Can't wait for
Mhm.
you to come back. Like,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
people
What
look
are
at
the
those.
what would be kind of like the way to find that though? Like, would it be like, I feel like we should do an example.
Yeah.
And so
Can
then
I
we would,
screen share?
yeah, go ahead.
So let's say I'm trying to find somebody who was an intern. I can literally type intern into LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to hit people because I want to find people who are interns.
Yeah.
And I can look at either their current company or past companies.
Mm.
So let's say I want to find people who are interns at Duolingo in the
Mm-hmm.
past. Oh, look, I can find all of these people who are
Mm-hmm.
interns at Duolingo, or if I click on into their profile, I might see more specifically like when they were at Duolingo, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think Jaden's incoming. Let's see if Nana did it. Love Nana. So if you start going into people's posts,
Yeah.
you're gonna see we're looking for, haha, perfect. So this one's old. She's no
Yeah.
longer the recruiter, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to share that I've got this internship. Grateful for the guidance from these people. Also, for
Wow.
the support from my recruiter.
Ta-da!
And then we also check the comments. Sometimes you're going to see hiring managers in the comments. If it's a returning
Mm-hmm.
intern, it might be
Mm-hmm.
other interns. Again, like I said, Dahlia is no longer the recruiter, but
Yes. This
this
is the
same
way.
strategy works.
Yes.
If you can find other people
Mm-hmm.
talking about their internship experience, they're going to
Yes.
typically tag the people who were important as part of that process, whether that was their manager,
Yes.
their recruiter, their mentor from the summer. All of those people are like hiding in
Yeah.
plain sight almost.
And I think this is like a really natural next question, Jaylyn. Like, how did you get into campus recruiting? Like, why did you start sharing all of your knowledge on LinkedIn? Like, share, just a little bit about like, how did you get into this
Yeah,
space in the first place?
bit of a winding story. So I was an RA in college because I could not afford housing. And I was also just good at talking to people and finding information.
Oh, really?
My
Good at talking to people. Okay.
like my roommates at the time, like anytime they had a question about something, they were like,
Yeah.
Jaylen will figure it out. So I became an RA. And I was an RA for 2 years, and then senior year came
Mm.
around. And I was like, okay, I want to go to grad school. I know
Hmm.
that. I also ain't got no grad school money. And so
Yep.
my supervisor at the time was like, you should go into student affairs, work in higher education. Like you can go to grad school,
Mm.
still work in housing, get you this
Hmm.
scholarship, this, that, the
Hmm.
third. So I was like, look into that. Let me look into that.
Yeah.
So I went to grad school for higher education, still worked in housing because I was like, okay, again, I cannot afford my own apartment. So let me
Yes.
get the job that comes with the housing again. But didn't necessarily love working in housing, being an RA. But I was like, okay, let me have an apartment. My bill's going to be paid. So then after grad school, I was like, I'm going to do something else. I am not going to be in housing anymore. And then I started looking at those salaries and said, you know what? Actually,
And I don't want to
here's
be poor.
might not hurt. Let me do the free apartment thing again. Let me do that. So I was at Arizona State working in housing, but working on all of our like recruitment efforts to hire RAs, to hire other
Mm.
coordinators, to hire other community directors. And that
Mhm.
was like my favorite part of the year was when we got to do hiring and doing the interviews and doing info
Mhm.
sessions. I was like,
Mhm.
this is something.
Yes.
And so I had moved up into an assistant director role at the University of North Florida, where I got to sort of like really lead and have all of our department recruitment under my
Mhm.
portfolio. And so I was like, amazing. I love recruitment. Um, Pandemic hits and all the students go home. And I have this realization because it's
Mm.
during recruitment where I'm like,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know what could be kind of lit? What if I recruited students but didn't live with them? Because I was still living on campus at the time.
Uh-huh.
I was like 30 years old, still living in a dorm
This doesn't
and
work.
sleeping on like blue bedbug proof mattresses. And I was like, surely there's a way for me to like do something else.
Yes.
So I just kind of started exploring other like corporate career paths. At that time, I still didn't know
Mm.
that like campus recruiting was a job. Like I
Mhm.
had been to
Mhm.
career fairs before, but I didn't realize like, oh, that's somebody's like full-time job to
Yes.
recruit
Mhm.
people for internships. And I had done a pageant my freshman year of college.
Oh.
Yeah, so I did pageants. I was Miss Black
Yeah.
Sacramento for a
Oh,
time.
what? We got royalty on the show?
And my pageant director used to recruit for Goldman. And so when I was like trying to
Mm.
explore new career paths,
Mhm.
I had reached out to her to be like, hey, come do a coffee chat, like just trying to figure out
Mhm.
like what this is. And so we had a really great conversation and she was like, you could be a campus recruiter in finance. Like I feel like you have the right
Mm.
vibe, the right energy.
Mhm.
Like I feel like you could be
Mhm.
really good at this. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay. So I like filed that in the back of my mind and I had started
Yeah.
like looking for jobs. And I was like, I can't work anywhere like Goldman Sachs, but like,
Yeah.
maybe like a Fifth Third Bank or something. I don't know. I was just looking at stuff, exploring
Yes.
opportunities. Uh, and like JP Morgan had never been on my radar. But then a friend of mine got hired at JP Morgan
Mhm.
and we were joking with him one day. We were like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
so big time, Jonathan. Like, you
Yeah.
work at JP Morgan. Like, put us on. Like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
hook us up." And Jonathan goes,
Yes.
"I can't get you a job at JP Morgan. What could you even do at JP Morgan?" And that's when I said, "Bet.
Mhm.
If they
Yes.
will hire
Yes.
Jonathan, I'm gonna find something just to
They
spite
gonna
Jonathan."
hire me.
Right. And so they had campus recruiting roles posted, and I applied to one. It was a Tuesday night
Yeah.
at around 9 p.m. And at 9:41 p.m., I got a rejection.
What?
I said,
What?
okay, I'm down, but I am not out.
Uh-huh. 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 Uh-huh.
And then there was another job that was posted, also at JP Morgan, also in campus recruiting, but
Yeah.
this one was also paired with the Advancing Black Pathways Fellowship Program.
Ooh.
So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me try that one. And that's the one I got an interview for.
Mhm.
And so ended up signing an offer. I had never been to the state of Texas before in my life.
That's
And they
such a
were
good
like, hey,
state.
girl, the job is you could be in Plano, Texas, Columbus, Ohio, or Jersey City. And
Yes.
I knew my money
Yes.
would go further in Texas than it did in
Mhm.
Jersey. So I said,
Mhm.
Texas it is. Texas it is.
Like Plano. It's like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
random.
Yeah. I had never seen Texas, hadn't driven through Texas, had never had a reason to go to Texas, but I saw that offer letter and said, "You know what? Go
Yes.
Cowboys."
Yes. Yes.
The stars at night are big and bright. And so I became a Texas girl.
Texas.
And so I moved to Texas and basically got like thrust into the world of campus recruiting. I had to like drink water from the fire hose, was building the plane as I was flying it, hardcore, but absolutely, absolutely loved it. And so that's kind of how I got my start in campus recruiting, but just sort of like fell in love with the ability to build relationships with students, to
Yes.
really mentor students, but also be in a space where it's like, hey, how can we have conversations
Yes.
and help you learn? It's such a like pivotal part in your life. I did not have somebody who was in my corner being like, okay, and this is how you get an internship. And
Yes.
this is how you get a corporate full-time job. And this is what a signing bonus is. And this is what a clawback is. And this is how you navigate. And this is what you need to be doing.
Yes. Mhm.
I thought that like as a student, I thought it was like, okay, go to college,
Mhm.
graduate,
Mhm.
profit. Like I was like, I went to
Da, da, da,
college.
da.
I was like, I even got the master's degree. So surely I should be making so much money at this point in
The
my life.
the profits should be profiting. Like, where is my profiting
Right.
at?
And that was not the case. And so I'm like, okay, how do I be that, big cousin over in recruiting for all the
Mhm.
students that need that person?
So I did a thing. I went on LinkedIn and I
Okay.
made a post. And I was just like, so I'm talking to a campus recruiter. I didn't tell them it was you. I probably should have did that. In the future, I'm going I have to do that. But I said, okay, I'm talking to a campus recruiter. What questions would you like me to ask? And so I have some of those questions. So I'm going to weave them in.
Sure.
And if that's cool with you. Okay. So the first one question students had was, the job market is a hot mess right now, which we know it is very close to how like even I graduated during the recession, like all those years ago, it
Hmm.
was a mess. So the question is resumes. How can they make their resume stand out to campus recruiters? Like, what are campus recruiters looking for within college student resumes? Some do's and don'ts, anything you have around resumes.
Yeah. So I think there's two things.
Mm-hmm.
At the base level, a lot of students get caught up on what their resume looks like, where they're like, okay, do I need to reword my bullets a certain way? Do I
Mm-hmm.
put the skills section at the top or the bottom? Do I
Mm-hmm.
have a
Mm-hmm.
skills section? Do I have a
Mm-hmm.
summary? Do I not have a summary? Is it one page? Is it two page?
Mm-hmm.
What template do I need to use? And I will get into all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I want to stress first is it's about content. The
Mm-hmm.
people who land internships, it's not because they used a better resume template than you did. They didn't It wasn't a matter of like, oh, they put their skills section at the top and at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why they got the interview.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, oh, they used this font, not that one. And like that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
was the difference maker. It was
Mm-hmm.
what they were doing on their campus before they ever opened up Word to start filling in those things. If you don't have leadership experience to talk about on your resume, if you don't have internship experience to talk about on your resume, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have relevant coursework, if you don't have a
Mm-hmm.
GPA that you're proud of to share, if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
these things, if you don't have projects that you've worked on,
Mm-hmm.
you could format the resume any way you want.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
going to have a harder time getting traction
Mm-hmm.
compared to the candidate who like maybe even has some imperfections on their resume,
Mm-hmm.
but you can really, really see where they're putting in that work for their professional development to
Mm-hmm.
pursue their intended career path. So, like,
Hmm.
content is king.
Hmm.
And then in terms of
Hmm.
like actual format, I think the
Mm-hmm.
quick things like clean, easy to read. People will
Hmm.
always say, I get a lot of students, especially one of my interns from this past summer, shout out to him, love him. I
Yeah.
looked at his resume and I was like, sweetie, why did we make some of these choices? And he was like, well, I wanted it to be interesting to look at. Like, I figured recruiters see like thousands of resumes.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to just have like a boring template. I thought that might
Mm-hmm.
be
Mm-hmm.
boring for you to see. So I wanted to like mix it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And while I can see where that logic is coming from, what the example that I gave him, I was like, I read books. I read lots of books.
Uh-huh.
And every single page of all the books is a black page or a white page with some black font
Mm-hmm.
in a plain black font. Ain't no pictures,
Mm.
ain't no
Mm-hmm.
graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
have yet to turn the page and get to page 387 and go, "Ugh, not another black and white page with clean, easy to read font.
Exactly.
Won't the
Yes.
author give me something different?" Because
Mm-hmm.
I care about the content. I'm invested in
Mm-hmm.
the story that's on that page.
Mm.
And the author gave it to me in a format that's consistent and easy for me to read.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
didn't go,
Mm-hmm.
what if we made this next part an infographic? That's really going to get the readers. And so, like, no, I don't get bored reading resumes. I got
Mm-hmm.
into recruitment because I like reading resumes. I do this for
Yes.
fun. And so that, template that your school's career center gives out where you're like, well, this doesn't look exciting. I don't need
Yeah.
your resume to look exciting.
Yes.
I
Yes.
like
Yes.
little education at the top, clean
Mm-hmm.
headers, one page, simple font. I don't need a picture of you. I don't need a graphic skills section. Truth be told, I don't know what you mean when you say you know 3 diamonds worth of Excel. Don't know. You know 40% Korean? Genuinely have no idea how much Korean that is.
Sorry.
I don't know what you want me to do with this information. I don't need a testimonial from anybody. Like,
Hmm.
the
So
and
like,
your
okay.
work experience, you read book.
So okay, so I want to break this down for the resume stuff, like spend some more time like opening this
Yeah.
up. Okay, so GPA, should a GPA be on a resume for a student that is going after like a job or internship? Is that something should be on
So
there?
I will preface all of the things I'm about to say about resumes with this.
Mm-hmm.
Resumes are subjective. You could ask
Mm-hmm.
10 different people for resume advice and get 17
Mm-hmm.
different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And some
Mm-hmm.
of them will conflict. At the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, you have to decide how you want to show up on paper, but I want
Mm-hmm.
students to feel empowered about how they're being strategic and
Mm-hmm.
know why they're making decisions about their resume.
Mm-hmm. That's so
If the
good.
only logic you have for why you made a certain decision was, well, I saw other people did it, so I did it,
Mm-mm.
that's not strategy. If it's just,
Mm-mm.
well, somebody said to do, okay, but why?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to GPA on resumes, there are going to be some people that'll say, oh, no, it doesn't matter at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to encounter a hiring manager that sees a 3.75 on a resume and goes, dang it, I hate when you give me the resumes with the high GPAs, Jaylyn. What's up with that?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And so if it's in that like 3.5 or higher area,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
flex. While you're a current
Mm-hmm.
student,
Mm-hmm.
flex.
I like that.
Now, if you've
I
already
like that.
graduated, there's a little formula I like to use.
Hmm.
Your GPA times 10. If that number is smaller than your mother's age, leave it off. And you might be going, but then the maximum it could be is 40. Correct.
Hmm.
Correct. Once
Mm-hmm.
you've graduated and you've long gone, it's okay, take it off. Take it
Mm-hmm.
off.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're
Mm-hmm.
still a student, use everything in your arsenal. You got that. You earned that 3.8, baby. Put it on there.
Yes. Yes.
Put it on.
Yes.
Now, if we have a GPA that we're like, hey, I had a rough semester. I thought I wanted to be pre-med. I got to that OChem. Turns out I don't. Not to worry. It's okay. We could
Uh-huh.
just leave that off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We could just leave that off. But tell the truth. The number of students that I have caught lying about their GPAs.
Wow. Wow.
There was one cycle where I had to rescind a few interview offers
Wow.
because
Mm-hmm.
essentially we would do a GPA integrity check to say, okay, you got the interview, send us your
Mm-hmm.
transcript.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going
Mm-hmm.
to rescind the interview because your GPA is low. We just want to make sure you didn't lie about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there
Mm-hmm.
was a student, I would have to like call them and do this whole thing, but there was a student who
Yeah.
just had flat out lied,
Yeah.
said he
Yep.
had like a 4.0, had like a 2.8.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so he was like, well, would I have gotten the interview if I had said I had a 2.8? Like I did what I had to do
Mm-hmm.
to make sure I got the interview. There was a risk I was willing to take. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you could have just
Mm-hmm.
left your GPA off of your resume entirely.
Ding, ding,
and
ding.
you would have still had you would have still had
Mm-hmm.
the interview.
Yep. Yep.
You're
Yep.
getting the interview rescinded
Yep.
because you lied, not because you
Yep.
have a low GPA.
I want to continue just a little bit on the resume stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, so graduation year, you should put that on your resume. Again,
month
like you
and
said, the
year.
okay, so you said the month and the year.
Yes.
Okay, and then dead links. I know, like you said, this past round, you did over like 15,000 resumes.
Mhm.
You had to review this past season, and you saw a lot of dead links. Can you talk about what that dead links to what? Like what,
Yeah. So
as
if
far as
you
with the
are
resume?
hyperlinking your GitHub, if you're hyperlinking your LinkedIn, make sure those
Mm,
links go to where you think they go, especially if you've like downloaded a template or you're
mm-hmm,
using somebody else's template. So a lot of times
mm-hmm,
what I would see is people would like update the text on the
mm-hmm,
template to be like, oh yeah, this is my LinkedIn, but not
mm-hmm.
actually update where the hyperlink goes. The
Okay,
second thing I would say
okay.
with those links is to make sure that the like wherever you're taking me is a place that you want me to see. If you have not put the work into your LinkedIn and you're like, oh, I don't do anything with my LinkedIn profile,
Mm-hmm,
it's not up to date, I don't have a headshot,
mm-hmm,
I don't have my
mm-hmm,
experience section filled
mm-hmm,
out,
mm-hmm,
don't link it. It
mm-hmm,
goes back to that, like, oh, well, other people had their LinkedIn, so I thought I was supposed to.
mm-hmm,
Get your LinkedIn to a
mm-hmm,
place where you want to show it
mm-hmm,
off and then
mm-hmm,
link it. If you've got a
mm-hmm,
portfolio, get your portfolio to a good
mm-hmm,
place,
mm-hmm,
then link it.
mm-hmm.
And so I think if I can just like walk top to bottom
Yeah.
in rapid fire, sort of what I'm looking
Yes.
for when I look at a
Okay, go
resume.
ahead. Mm-hmm.
So in that header, I want to see phone numbers. I don't know who told y'all take your phone numbers off. Please put them back on. I have to call you for interviews. And if your phone numbers
You out there with your smoke signals. You
please,
got your bat signal. You got your Duolingo bat signal out.
please, please,
Tweet, tweet.
if you watch an interview, be easy to contact. I want your phone
Mm-hmm.
number. I want your email address.
Mm.
Students, figure out what email address you are using to apply to jobs. This like back and forth of, oh, sometimes I use my school email and sometimes I use my Gmail and sometimes I put
Mm-hmm.
both. And then pick one,
Mm-hmm.
stick to it, preferably
Mm-hmm.
not your school email. There's going to come a
Yes.
point in time where you graduate and you no longer have access to that email address.
Yes.
You still might need to access communication that you had
Mm-hmm.
with employers.
Mm-hmm.
And also sometimes like school emails, they eat some of our emails. They get stuck in the firewall. But
Uh-huh.
so we want
Yes.
phone number, email address. I do not
Okay.
want your home address. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need the full address of where your mom and them stay. City, comma, state is great. Why I care about your location, I want to know what time zone you're in. I want to know if you're close to particular offices. I want to
Mm-hmm.
know where you are coming from, but I don't need to know exactly where you live. And depending on the role that you're applying to, sometimes it's helpful to have like hometown and sort of where you go to school, but
Yeah.
we digress. And then if you want to include a GitHub, a LinkedIn, a
Mm-hmm.
portfolio link, you can always include those, but make sure you're proud of them. And also
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind, depending on where you're applying, sometimes they can't access those links. So like when I was at JP
Mm-hmm.
Morgan, security real high. We can't
Mm-hmm.
just
Click.
open
Mm-hmm.
any random Weebly website. So a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to see. When we go into that education section, that's the next section I want to see at the very, very, very tippy top. I want to
Mm-hmm.
know where you go to school. I want to know your major. I want to know the month and year that you graduate. I don't want to see class of 2027. When in 2027, because that's going to determine your eligibility for roles. Is that
Mm-hmm.
month and year combined? So for students that are like, oh, well, I am technically a freshman, but I'm a junior by credit. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
grad date is what we're going off
Mm-hmm.
of, not credit
Mm-hmm.
hours, not how many years you've been in school, grad
Mm-hmm.
date.
Mm-hmm.
When I do my first sweep of work experience,
Mm-hmm.
I'm first looking at like titles and companies in that first pass just to kind of get lay of the land.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the thing that is going to entice me most to keep looking at bullets. And so that's where having internship experience becomes really important because the folks
Mm-hmm.
that have that, like
Mm-hmm.
leaps and bounds
Yes.
over folks that
Yes.
maybe don't have that experience yet. But if you
Yes.
don't have
Yes.
that experience yet, that next section, give me a little leadership and involvement. What are you involved in on campus? If you
Hmm.
are pursuing engineering, Are you
Mhm.
in Color Stack? Are you in Nesby? Are you a part of
Mhm.
rewriting the code? If you
Mhm.
are looking for opportunities in business, are you in
Mhm.
AKSI? Are you in
Mhm.
any like business organization?
Mhm.
Show me, I should be able to cover up your major, look at your resume, and still know what type of career you're
Mm.
pursuing
Mhm.
based
Mhm.
on your internship
Mhm.
experience, your involvement,
Mhm.
things that you do. It should be really
Mhm.
clear in that
Mhm.
way.
Mm.
And then for my tech students, I like to see a little project. Tell me the cool thing that you're working
Yes.
on. Skill section, general rule of thumb for me, if it's a technical role, put it at the top. It sets the scene for
Okay.
your recruiter to know like what programming languages you know, what frameworks,
Mhm.
what we should be looking for. Non-technical role, if you want to have a skills section, put it at the bottom.
Mhm.
Focus more on hard skills and some of the soft skills. I don't necessarily like
Mhm.
I don't sit at my ATS and type in teamwork as a keyword that I'm searching for.
Communication. I'm so good at communicating. Just communication.
Hey, time management, that is great. These are wonderful skills. On your resume, it sounds like if you were trying to buy a car and they were like, "We have seat belts. Our
Yes.
cars also have brakes."
And windows.
Mhm. They roll down
Oh,
and
man.
everything. Blinkers, windshield wipers.
Oh, man.
And it's not to say that those skills aren't important. We wanna see them in
Yes.
action in an interview. Would you're like,
Hmm.
"My biggest advertisement is I have these core things."
Hmm.
We want everybody to have those things. The same
Mhm.
way like, it's
Mhm.
not that you would buy a car that doesn't have brakes or
Mhm.
that doesn't
Mhm.
have seat
Mhm.
belts,
Mhm. Mhm.
but if the car salesman is like, "Hey, this is the most enticing thing that
Uh-huh.
we
Uh-huh.
have."
You're like,
You're like, "Okay, wait a minute, there's nothing else good about."
yes. Uh-huh. That's such a great
Right,
analogy. That's such a yeah, because you just be like, well, what's wrong?
right.
Why are
If that
you
is the biggest
just
selling point, you're like, "I'm punctual." I'm like, "Okay,
yes.
yes, you
Mhm.
should be. I
Mhm.
expect all the candidates to be punctual."
Yeah.
Versus the candidate that's saying, "I'm really passionate about this industry. I'm very
Mhm.
involved. I've done these projects. Here's
Mhm.
how I've
Mhm.
demonstrated my interest
Mhm.
in this field."
Mhm.
And on
Mhm.
top of that, yeah, I'm a good
Mhm.
communicator and a problem solver, and I'm creative, and I work well with
Yes.
other like,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
we want
Yeah.
the both and.
So I wanna ask you this real quick. The skills part, what types of words would be good to put in for skills? Like, or not good to put in, but like an example for
Yeah.
some of our listeners that are just like, okay, I get that it shouldn't be communication. What could it be?
Yeah. So you wanna think about so when I say, like, technical skills,
Mm-hmm.
even me as somebody who's not in a technical role, there are programs, softwares, things that are
Okay.
specific to being a
Mm-hmm.
recruiter that demonstrate, "Hey, I have skills in these areas." So
Mm-hmm.
for someone who is pursuing software engineering, it might be the
Mm-hmm.
programming languages you know. So you might,
Mm-hmm.
be have C++ and Java
Mm-hmm.
and Swift
Mm-hmm.
and Python. For
Mm-hmm.
someone who's looking at a design role, you might talk about, "Hey, I'm really solid in Figma." For someone who is
Mm-hmm.
pursuing,
Mm-hmm.
um, finance roles,
Mm-hmm.
you might have Excel listed as part of
Mm-hmm.
your knowledge and things that you're, really strong in. So really,
Mm-hmm.
basically look at that job description and go, "Okay, is this a tool that they say they wanna see people use?
Mm-hmm.
Let me use that. Let me talk about
Mm-hmm.
that." Like,
Mm-hmm.
that job
Mm-hmm.
description is an outline for your resume. We
Mm-hmm.
gave you the study guide. It said, "Here
Yes.
is what's on the test."
Mm-hmm.
Precisely what's on
Yes.
the test. And so that can
Mhm,
often give you some tools to leverage. My other pro tip for you, look one level above. Like, what's the role after the role that you're looking for? Look at those job
hmm,
descriptions. What
hmm,
skills are they
mhm,
looking for? Because that's gonna
mhm.
help give you sort of a professional roadmap to go, "Okay, if
Yeah.
all the jobs that I want 2, 3 years after
Mhm,
graduation are looking for someone who's really strong in, data visualization,
mhm, mhm.
let me make sure right now I start thinking about finding projects and opportunities to build that
Yes.
skill."
Yes. Yes, yes. I feel like what you're saying in this section as we're talking is like being strategic.
Yeah.
Just being strategic, not just going out there and just throwing words on the paper because someone else said it. What does it look like for you? And doing your research. And it doesn't take 10 years to do research. You could
Right.
just literally go on and start looking. And a lot of students, I know our listeners are hip to this because like, okay, you guys are listening to this podcast and you're like, okay, let me take down all these notes. And you guys are going to go out
Yeah.
to do that. But don't just keep it with you. Like you guys are listening, like share this with others because a lot of students are not doing that at all.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like when I
so,
was in grad school, I used to look at assistant director job descriptions all the time to be like, okay, so what are they going to be looking for
mm-hmm,
when I'm at that
mm-hmm.
level?
Yes,
And I think
yes.
part of how I ended up being able to pivot from education to recruitment is
Mm-hmm,
because I saw these roles, whether it
mm-hmm,
was in admissions or whether it was like assistant director of recruitment type
mm-hmm.
roles. So I was like, okay, well, let me get on the committee my first year so I get that recruitment experience. Let me see if I could chair the committee
Yes.
next
Uh-huh.
year so that I
Uh-huh.
have that
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
So even though, because a question I get a lot from students is like, okay, well, what if I don't have direct experience yet? What if I don't
Mm-hmm.
have, exactly what they're looking for? I haven't done an
Mm-hmm.
internship yet. I
Mm-hmm.
basically use projects to pivot. I was like, hey, okay, have I ever
Yes.
been
Yes.
a corporate recruiter before?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this project at work that gave me
Mm-hmm.
these
Mm-hmm.
skills that
Mm-hmm.
align with what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
looked at the job description. You're looking for somebody to facilitate recruitment events and info sessions. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't exactly the same, but
Mm-hmm.
here's how I
Mm-hmm.
did it in this other space and how I think I could use that experience to be successful here.
Yes, yes. And what I like, and I want our listeners, our students to listen in is just like, okay, you're creating your own path.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think for like the projects, we just wait for someone to tell us, okay, this is the project I want you to do. I love working with students and just telling them, you can create your own project. Like
Yeah.
if you know that this is what they're looking for and no one is offering it to you, then you figure out a way to create the project that will hit those goals so that you then can talk about it in the future versus just waiting for someone to be like,
Right.
this is exactly what I want you to do.
Right. And
Hold on one
there's
second.
ways to, incorporate that into the work that you're already doing. I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes even the students who are really proactive are like
Mm-hmm.
going out sometimes and looking for like, okay, how do
Mm-hmm.
I get someone to give me a project? I'm going to
Yes.
go out
Uh-huh.
and find a company to partner with or a
Mm-hmm.
person to assign me
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
work. And also those students are often the people that are already RAs on campus and orientation leaders
Yes.
and presidents.
Mm-hmm.
Do the work with what you already have, right? So if you
Yes.
are an executive board member in RHA or in your
Mm-hmm.
fraternity or in your sorority, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to be a project manager or I want to develop project management skills,
Mm-hmm.
project manage spring formal,
Yes.
project manage
Yes.
the
That's
upcoming
it.
events that y'all have, right? Like
Exactly.
apply
Yep.
those same principles.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says you can't use agile or
Mm-hmm.
waterfall to help
Yep.
plan meet the Greeks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when you're in that interview, you're like, okay, and here is how I use this project management
Yes.
methodology to do XYZ.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you don't have web development experience,
Mm-hmm.
but your sorority needs a website. Okay, let's get on LinkedIn Learning. Let's go learn some
Yep.
web dev. Let's get on Coursera.
Yes.
Go learn some web dev.
Yes.
We've learned the
Yes.
concepts, but instead of
Mm-hmm.
just going, okay, I got this certificate, I'm gonna put on my resume that I got a
Mm-hmm.
certificate. Go build the
Mm-hmm.
website.
Mm-hmm.
Go build the
Mm-hmm.
website. Add it to your portfolio. And I
Yes.
think like that
Yes.
is where students sometimes miss the opportunity to sort
Mm-hmm.
of weave
Mm-hmm.
in. You already have these interests for these things that you want
Yes.
to do.
Yes.
If you're watching me right now and being like, being a recruiter sounds dope. Go
Yeah.
be the VP of recruitment for your
Yes.
sorority. Go be the
Yes.
VP of
Mm-hmm.
membership for
Mm-hmm.
student government. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
go recruit,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not
Mm-hmm.
in the same capacity.
Yes, yes. And I want to also talk about when we were preparing for the episode, we talked a lot about networking and
Yeah.
referrals. And guys, full disclaimer, like Jaylyn had like this whole, she was like sharing her screen. I don't know if you want to do that again today, but it was just like you had like a really unique perspective on networking and referrals. So there's a lot of pressure and advice out there that you need to get referrals. But in this day and age, is that true?
So I have some unpopular opinions on networking, but I think it's important to ground in fact. So a lot of the
Mhm,
advice that students get around networking is grounded in this statistic that gets repeated a lot. People say, oh, 80% of jobs are filled through networking, or
mhm,
they'll talk about the hidden job market and say 80%
mhm,
of jobs are never posted publicly. The stat that 80% of jobs are filled through networking is based on a paragraph from What Color's Your Parachute that was based on a study done in like the 70s or 80s on blue
mm,
collar jobs. So yeah, if
mm.
you wanted to work down at the factory, your Uncle Tony said, "Hey, my nephew's 18, he's looking for a job."
Mhm,
And
mhm,
that's how you got it. Yeah. So if
mhm,
you would like to be an auto mechanic, if you would like to be a plumber, a carpenter in the 80s,
mhm.
networking was very,
The
very
thing.
crucial
Yes, yes.
for that. Now, if you want to be a software engineer or if you would like to be an HR analyst in
Uh-huh.
2025,
Mhm,
it's not just about networking. So when we look
mhm,
at updated data sets, the number is probably closer to 40 to 60% of roles,
hmm,
depending on the study that you're looking at, are
mhm,
filled through networking or referrals.
mhm.
But by default, that also means that 40 to 60% of roles are filled through cold applications or not networking. Even that number feels a little inflated for some of what we're
Mhm,
seeing. So I went back and looked recently for the hiring that I did for this past recruitment cycle,
mhm.
15% had referrals.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
15%.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And so referrals weren't necessarily the
Mhm,
biggest driver. And I say all this
mhm.
not to say don't get referrals, referrals don't matter, don't network,
Yes.
but
Yes.
believe in the goodness of your work. People
Mm.
who are getting opportunities aren't just getting them because they have a referral, but because they have the internship experience, the project experience, the
Yes.
leadership
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
Somebody's got to have good things to say about you. So, as
Mhm,
much as
mhm,
people want to say, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know,
mhm,
you still got to know some stuff.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
You still have to be a resume. You still have to have a resume that that person can put in front of a hiring manager, and that hiring manager be like, oh, yeah, this person is qualified and
mhm,
good.
mhm.
So I
Exactly.
have seen many a summer, many a recruitment season where a student has gotten so focused on networking and being like, this is going to be my ticket. I got to network, network, network,
Mm, mhm.
that they forgot to do the work for the actual internship, didn't get a
Wow.
return offer.
Mhm, mhm,
Every season, there's a
mhm,
student that was so focused on networking, so focused on,
mhm,
I got to get the coffee chat, I got to get the
mhm,
referral,
mhm.
application closes. Interview invites have already been sent while they were
Wow.
waiting for their coffee
Wow.
chat.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And so don't sleep on submitting your application. There's a wonderful creator, Mike Petito, love him. One thing he said that really like stuck with me, he was like, think about networking for your next job search, not for your current search. You want to think
Hmm.
about the most strategic networking is a long game. So you had like
Yes.
referenced the graphic that I created.
Yes, the
Um,
gamblers.
yes, 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 yes. I might pull it up just so we have the visual. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So, um, really, the strength of a referral is based on two things: the strength of your relationship with the person making the referral, and the strength of
Mhm,
their relationship with the hiring manager. So, if we start in sort of the bottom left quadrant, we've got our
mhm,
Good Samaritan referrals. I would say the majority of referrals that I see come in are these Good Samaritan referrals, meaning
hmm,
the person submitting the referral doesn't really know you. They don't really know the hiring manager. They're not really
mhm,
involved, but maybe you reached out to them on LinkedIn, they did a
mhm,
little coffee chat with you, you seem nice, they're trying to be helpful. They're
mhm.
like, "Ah, it's a tough job market. Sure, here's my link," or "Sure, put my name
Uh-huh.
down. Seem like a nice college student. Maybe you go to their alma mater," sort of deal.
Mhm, mhm,
While this is good and well, these referrals don't have a lot of weight. They don't have a lot of impact because that
mhm.
person can't really speak in depth about you, and they
So true.
likely aren't necessarily like going to bat
Mhm,
for you with the hiring managers.
mhm, mhm,
I would say like the next most common type of referral I see is like what I call the groupie referral. These are people that like know you really well, but aren't
Yeah.
necessarily connected to the hiring. I
Mm.
used to get a lot of these when I worked in finance because it would be like,
Yeah.
my son is a college student, my niece is a
Mhm.
junior and she's looking for an internship, my cousin is really interested in investment
Mhm.
banking. All these people are like, I have this lovely college student that
Yeah.
you have to meet. And when I would take those referrals to the hiring
Mhm.
manager and go, "Hey, so and so, out in Connecticut says their cousin's really great." And they're like, "Well, I don't know that person, so I don't
Uh-huh.
necessarily
Uh-huh.
not putting all of my stock in what so and
Yep.
so says about their cousin." So
Mhm.
these have slightly higher impact because you at least have somebody willing to go to bat for you that's
Yes.
really going to try and advocate. But if that
Mhm.
person just sends you a link or just like says, "Yep, my cousin's great. We really love this
Yeah.
person."
Yeah. Yeah.
If the hiring manager has no reason to
Mhm.
value their opinion or have that relationship, it's not necessarily as impactful.
Mhm.
Where we
Mhm.
have some potential for stronger impact is with people that have a strong relationship with the hiring managers. So we've got
Hmm.
what I like to call the gamblers, right? These
Yeah.
people that are maybe closer to either the hiring manager or the recruitment
Mhm.
process, even
Mhm.
if they don't know you super well.
Mm.
And so a common sort of gambler referral is, who's a potential peer on that team? Who is that like
Hmm.
L1, L2 engineer?
Mhm.
Who is
Mhm.
that analyst level professional that just graduated a couple
Mhm.
years ago, but
Mhm.
is a part of the team? Who
Mhm.
has the ear of the hiring manager? When
So
students
true.
start trying to network, often they're like, "Okay, I need to talk to the recruiter. I need to talk to the
Mhm.
hiring manager. I need to talk to
Mhm.
the managing director.
Mhm.
Who is
Mhm.
the tippy top? What's the highest
Mhm.
level person I
Mhm.
could hit?" When really the people that might have the time, the capacity, the
Mhm.
willingness to talk to you about their experience
Mhm.
are the people that were just in your shoes a year or two ago.
That's so true. Yes.
And so they might be willing to take a gamble on you. They might be willing
Mhm.
to say, "Hey,
Mhm.
we only had one coffee chat. I don't know you that well, but you seem like you got your stuff together. So
Yes.
I'll give you a shot.
Yes.
I'll mention you to
Yes.
the hiring manager. You
Mhm.
seem cool."
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
don't sleep on a gambler because they've got the ear of the hiring manager.
Mhm.
Now, the
Mhm.
referrals that are real game changers, when they know you really well and they know the
Yeah.
hiring manager really well. And this type of
Mm.
referral, this type of relationship takes
Mhm.
time. You can
Mhm.
convert
Mhm.
a gambler into a game
Mhm.
changer, but it's going to take time. And being able to establish some of those longer term relationships
Mhm.
where people
Mhm.
can really say and speak to your work ethic, to really speak to your skills and abilities, and
Mhm.
sort of feel confident and comfortable putting their name behind you,
Yes.
that is where
Yes.
you're going to
Yes.
see the most impact. And you might not have game changer referrals until a little later in your career, and that's okay. It
Yeah.
might
Yep.
be the person that you
Mhm.
worked with for the first, 2, 3 years you worked full time. It might be, "Oh,
Mm.
we did an analyst program together and we were on the same team and they were always
Mhm.
great." Like,
Mhm.
that connection, don't
Mhm.
sleep on your
Mhm.
peers. Your peers might often become those game-changing referrals. The people you come up
Yes.
with, then you
So
say, "Oh,
true.
okay, they over
Yes.
at Google and you at Microsoft."
Yes. Uh-huh.
And now you trying to get over to Google and go, "Who do I
That's so
know that's over
true.
there?"
Yes. Yes.
"Oh, yeah, we worked on that hackathon. We've been
Mhm.
homies. We met at the Color Stack Stacked Up Summit. We went to
Mm.
Afrotech together."
Mhm. Mhm.
Those connections later on in
Mm.
life, further down the road,
Mhm.
those can
Mhm.
be game changers for when you're ready to make those bigger career moves later in life. What I think when it comes to gamblers and good Samaritans, one of the best things you can get from those conversations is knowledge, is learning. I was
Mm.
just talking to a student about this yesterday. I think sometimes students go into coffee chat conversations chasing the referral, where it's like
Yes.
the only point
Yes.
of this
Yes.
conversation
Yes.
is to get the
Yes.
referral. I'm gonna send the message and I'm gonna ask them to refer me. I'm gonna have a coffee chat and I'm gonna ask them to
Mhm.
refer me. And
Mhm.
that's what I
Mhm.
wanna get out of this.
Mhm.
Sometimes the most value you're gonna get from those conversations is, okay, so you went through the interview process last year. What did the interview process look like? How did you
Mhm.
prepare for the
Mhm.
interviews? What
Mhm.
sorts of projects did you do as an undergrad that you felt like helped you
Mm.
stand out? okay, did you go to
Yes.
any conferences? I'm trying to figure out if it's worth
Mhm.
it to go to some of these big national conferences. Did that help you?
Yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
see you did a 4+1 master's program. I've been thinking about whether or not I should get a graduate
Mm.
degree. Do you think that's
Mhm.
something that would be helpful? Did your degree help you?
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't sleep on, though, the actual conversation. If you are going
Yes.
into these networking conversations being like, "My goal is to deliver a mean elevator pitch and
Mhm.
make this person
Mhm.
like me
Mhm.
and just, like, suck up till I get a referral,"
Mhm.
you're not
Mhm.
gonna have
Mhm.
as valuable of a conversation. And that's when you see people posting on LinkedIn being like, "But I had 5 referrals to such and such
Yep.
company, and I didn't even
Yep.
get an interview.
Yep.
I did all
Yep.
these coffee
Yep.
chats, and I got the referral, and
Mhm.
I didn't even get the
Mhm.
interview."
Yeah. 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 It's their proximity and how they're using that coffee chat as
Yep.
well.
Yep, because
And
like,
I
you can
think,
gain gems from people. People will lay out for
yes.
you, "Okay, here's
Yes.
what we're looking for.
Mhm.
Here's what our
Mhm.
culture is like. Here's what you should
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
asking about. Here's what the
Mhm.
role looks like."
Mhm. It's so true. I think I was working with a student and they did a coffee chat and one of the person was saying you need to have GIS. At the time, they didn't have that. They weren't taking those classes
Yeah,
at school. And so we talked about it and I was like, I think you should look into taking the GIS. And they
yeah,
did that and that linked them to be able to get a job and they had actually 2 job offers by the time they graduated from internships and stuff like that. But the technical side, they were able to figure out the classes they needed
yep,
because of the coffee chats. Because,
yep,
a lot of times the university is just like, take whatever your heart desires. These are some things you should do. But the people in the field are like, no, you actually need to know this skill, this skill, this
right,
skill, and this one. If that's not on your resume, you need to figure out how to get it
right,
on there or in your transcript at the time.
right,
Um,
like, that piece is so key. These students
yes.
do 4+1 MBA programs thinking, "Okay, I'm gonna have an MBA
Mm-hmm.
now. This is gonna be really
Mm-hmm.
attractive to employers," and then having to explain, "Ooh, actually,
Mm-hmm.
you're now not eligible for some of these MBA recruiting opportunities because those are for candidates who got an MBA 3 to 5 years after they graduated, and they were
Oh
looking for
wow.
candidates who have full-time work experience from before they started MBA programs.
Man.
So there are
Man.
times where candidates
Uh-huh.
put themselves in this limbo where they're not
Mm.
eligible for undergraduate programs because they're
Hmm.
in this MBA program, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not eligible for MBA recruiting
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they don't have full-time work experience.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like,
Yes.
these are
Yes.
things we could have worked out if you were like
Mm-hmm.
talking to folks before making the move.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
like
Yes.
I like to encourage students like network when the job application is closed. Network like
Mm-hmm.
if you are thinking about summer 2026 internships,
Mm-hmm.
we need to be having conversations now.
Yes.
That
Yes.
way, when the job
Yes.
does open back up,
Mm-hmm.
you already have a person to reach out to. You already
Mm-hmm.
have a connection. You've already had
Mm-hmm.
conversations
Mm-hmm.
versus the student that's like, "Oh no, the internship application dropped. I want to try and find somebody to network with. I need to find a
Yes.
referral." And so now I'm panicking and scrambling
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know if I should get my application in first or if I should get the
Mm-hmm.
referral first. And so we can
Mm-hmm.
bypass all that.
Mm-hmm.
Create a list of target companies now. Where do you want to
Mm-hmm.
be a year from now? Make that
Mm-hmm.
list. Start identifying the recruiters. Start identifying the entry level professionals. Start
Mm-hmm.
identifying and triangulating. Okay, who do I want to try and talk
Mm-hmm.
to? Well, nothing's open.
Mm-hmm.
Because once it
Mm-hmm.
opens, all those
Yes.
people, DM's gonna start going
Yes.
crazy.
Yes. 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 No, and it's like it's less people. So the fact that you do message them on their DMs, right? The person has a higher likelihood of
Yeah,
responding. Like even like our conversation now, like you were just like, okay, you got to do it in this window because I'm about to get slammed with
yeah,
all this work. And so there is that time a block with that throughout the year that happens and a lot of students are not aware of that. They're just like, oh my goodness, opportunity opened up, now I have to find someone. I think this is a really good segue into talking about how to DM a recruiter. And I've seen a lot of posts about other recruiters talking about how some students have even like taken or found their personal email and
yes.
like messaged them. And it's just gotten like real weird, real fast, all in the name of trying to get some type of referral or some type of insight into the job. Can you talk to our students a little bit about how to DM a recruiter?
Rule number one, don't make it weird. don't make it weird. Like, I get and respect that
Mm-hmm.
students are trying anything and everything they can to stand
Mm-hmm.
out. Sometimes you stand out in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you
Mm-hmm.
were standing out
Mm-hmm.
does not mean that it's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I always
Mm-hmm.
preface for folks, if you contact me through one of my professional channels, like
Mm-hmm.
my work email or my
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, you'll get a professional response.
Mm-hmm.
If you contact me through an unprofessional means of communication, I reserve the right to give you an
Mm-hmm.
unprofessional response. So, like, don't track down people's cell phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Don't message
That's
them on
so
their like
weird.
personal Instagram or
Mm-hmm.
social media. Don't
Mm-hmm.
like text people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't
Mm-hmm.
make it weird.
Mm-hmm.
But when we are reaching out to recruiters, we want a couple things. One, want brief pitch. Brief pitch, an introduction, like 2-3 sentences. I need to know where you go to school, when you graduate, what we're looking for. Those are like key bits of information that help sort of
Mm-hmm.
me understand where this conversation is going.
Mm-hmm.
Then I want to understand what you've already done. Did you already apply? Or like where are you
Mm-hmm.
sort of
Mm-hmm.
in the process? If you're going to message me, there should be some sort of call to action. Do you have
Ooh.
a question? Did
Mm-hmm.
you need something? The
Mm-hmm.
message that I probably dislike the most is just the hi, I applied.
Wow. Unhelpful.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
you.
good luck.
Mm-hmm.
I am interested in this role. And I think where a lot of that comes from is students are told, oh, you should, you know, communicate your interests. You should communicate your
Mm-hmm.
enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
Baby, you applied for the job. I'm assuming you're interested.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If the only
Hmm.
purpose of your message is to say, hi, I'm interested,
Mm.
hi, I'm excited,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially at some of these larger companies where we are
Mm-hmm.
getting hundreds of candidates that are saying, hi, I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested, hi, I'm excited,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably not going to get a response.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of students who are like, I message recruiters and they don't respond back to me. I'm like, you didn't give
Mm-hmm.
them anything to respond to. If you just
Mm-hmm.
said, hey, I'm interested and here's my resume and I'm really
Mm-hmm.
excited,
Yep.
okay, I'm just going to. I mean, I respond to all of my messages because I know
Yes.
other people don't respond to them, but
Yes. Yes.
most of my recruiter friends are like, cool,
Uh-huh.
archive.
Yes. Yes.
If
I mean,
they're,
what type of questions should you be what type of call to actions? Because we're working with first and second gen students, like
yeah,
this is new. So what is a question? I don't know.
yeah, like, do you have questions about the timeline? Do you have questions about what the process looks like? If
Okay.
you have a question, ask. I made one of the posts that I made was like, if you don't have questions, we don't need to have a coffee chat. And if you do have questions, you can send them to
Uh-huh.
me in an email and we don't have to have a coffee chat. And so
Yeah.
from like a recruiter perspective, and this is not necessarily, I can't speak for all recruiters, but for
Mm-hmm.
many of us that are in the campus space and the university space where we're dealing with really, really, really high application volume,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's a big ask to be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, can we get on a Zoom call? Can
Mm-hmm.
we get on a
Mm-hmm.
phone call?
Mm-hmm.
Even if
Mm-hmm.
it's for 10 minutes. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, for
Mm-hmm.
you as that student going, like, oh, well, I'm just asking for 10 minutes, or I just want some resume feedback, or I just
Mm-hmm.
want 15
Mm-hmm.
minutes of this person's time. That's all
That's
I'm
a lot.
asking for.
That's a lot.
I get 500 messages a month.
Yep. Yep.
If just 10% of those I say,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we can get on a
Mm-hmm.
call, I'm be
Mm-hmm.
on calls for hours.
That's
And so,
crazy.
like, when students are like, "Oh, but I need to stand out, I need to stand out," the best way to stand out is to be outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Not one person I hired in this past season
Mm-hmm.
sent me a message.
Wow.
Their
Wow.
resumes were just fire. The
Yes.
interview was fire. The application was good.
Oh my
I
goodness.
saw the resume and said, "Wow, yep, that one."
They didn't slide into your DMs to talk about things.
And that's not to say that it's bad to slide into my DMs,
Yes.
but, like, if you are putting in the work
Mm-hmm.
11 months out of the year,
Mm-hmm.
the 1 month my application
Mm-hmm.
is open,
Mm-hmm.
you don't necessarily need to hustle that hard.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mm-hmm.
are doing the work, Before the
Mhm.
application opens, you're
Mhm.
involved. You're working on projects. You got
Mhm.
leadership positions. You have other internship experience. You
Yes.
are like working on your craft. You're building technical
Mhm.
skills. You're
Mhm.
having networking
Mhm.
conversations. For my
Mhm.
engineers, you're practicing your
Mhm.
lead code. For my designers, you're
Mhm.
working on your portfolio. If you're doing the work,
Mhm. Mhm.
once the application is open, it should be easy.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Where
Yes.
students get themselves in hot water is you're waiting for the application to open and then going, okay, now I need to message the recruiter. Now I need to go get the
Yes.
referral. Now I need
Yes.
to message the
Yes.
hiring manager.
Yes.
Now I need to
Yes.
find the email to stand out.
Yes. 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 Yes.
The folks who are truly outstanding are doing the work year round and success compounds, right? If you're
Yes.
that first year student and
Yes.
you're like, okay, I don't have an
Mhm.
internship because I'm a freshman.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, work on a project this summer
Mhm. Mhm.
because that project might lead to you getting that internship next summer. You're a
Yes.
sophomore, maybe you don't have an internship for this summer, but you did,
Mm.
Netflix formations. You did one of the like city discovery days. You did one of
Yes.
these early identification programs, even if it was
Yes.
I spent 3 days in New York with the company learning
Mhm.
more about
Mhm.
opportunities and building my network that way. Okay, cool. Put that on your resume.
Yes. Yes.
Like the
Yes.
people that have the full-time offers walking into senior year are people that
Yes.
had internships their junior year. People that had
Yes.
internships their junior year
Yes.
are people that were
Yes.
strategic, either had an
Yes.
internship, a project,
Yes.
worked in the research
Yes.
lab, did something their
Yes.
sophomore year. The people that
Yes.
landed those opportunities sophomore year
Yes.
were involved in organizational effort. Even if they
Mhm.
didn't
Mhm.
have a
Mhm.
leadership role, they were in Color
Mhm.
Stack, they were in
Mhm.
Nesby, they were in
Mhm.
an organization trying to
Mhm.
figure out, okay, how can I be in NABA if I'm trying to be an
Yes.
accountant?
Yes.
Can I
Yes.
do a case study competition with
Yes.
Deloitte? Like,
Mhm.
it's all about building those building blocks.
Yes. 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 No, I definitely you could see it. It's like, okay, if you are strategic earlier on, then you'll be able to reap the benefits later on
Mhm.
versus you just jumping out there and like Jaylyn, like I wish, I hope, I would love for you to come baback. Because we definitely have covered a lot. And the last question I'm gonna ask you actually is about career coaches.
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts on if a student should look into a career coach, or like if yeah, like some students are like, okay, I really do need help with structuring my resume, or I do need help with my cover letters or things like that. Would you recommend career coaches, or is it just like, you should definitely go to your career service center and that's it? Or kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think students and experienced professionals alike, you should
Mm-hmm.
always have multiple tools and resources in your toolkit.
Hmm.
So it's not to say that like, oh, you should only go to career services and you should never use a career coach or vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
but career services is an amazing resource. They probably got something you could use.
That's so
Like,
true.
and sometimes students will be like, well, I went to my career services center and they weren't helpful with my resume. Okay, do they have funding for unpaid internships? Do they have a professional development
Mm.
scholarship you could use? Do they got a coupon for suits at Men's Warehouse? Do they have rooms that you can reserve in order to
Mm-hmm.
do your interviews?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They got something up in there that you could use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Go
Mm-hmm.
find it. And so, like,
Yes.
leveraging the resources that are available through career services, leveraging the resources that are available through professional associations and organizations, leveraging mentors, leveraging
Mm.
professors, like, sort of build your own board of
Mm-hmm.
directors for your career with
Hmm.
all of these folks. And
Mm-hmm.
if you want to use a career coach, I think there's a few pieces of information to keep in mind. One, anytime I'm looking at career coaches for any client, I
Mm-hmm.
am asking what is their level of expertise and how does it align with what that client is looking for. So there
Mm.
might be somebody who is a phenomenal career coach for
Mm-hmm.
experienced professionals that has never once been a part of campus or university recruiting, doesn't know how the process works,
Mm.
can't necessarily steer you in the right direction
Mm-hmm.
because they
Mm-hmm.
lack that context.
Mm-hmm.
So finding
Mm-hmm.
people that are knowledgeable in the spaces that you are trying to be in,
Hmm.
finding people that are going to be affordable. There are a
Hmm.
lot of very fancy coaches charging very
Yeah.
fancy prices.
Yeah.
I'm never going to recommend that a college student spend $700 on a resume. I'm just not
Mm-hmm.
going to do that. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there are free resources, there are other resources and ways to connect with folks that
Mm-hmm.
aren't that. And the last thing I would recommend when, thinking about a career coach or pursuing a career coach is
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to their free content. Pay attention to like what access and information are they out there doing for free. There are
Mm-hmm.
folks like Kiana Arnold, like Jade Walters, like Colin
Mm-hmm.
Rocker,
Mm-hmm.
who are out here putting out content for free.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that
Mm-hmm.
make videos every day giving
Mm-hmm.
advice for free. There's
Mm-hmm.
apps like
Mm-hmm.
FIDE where you can connect with folks for free.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
exhaust your free options
Mm-hmm.
before investing in a ton of money. My last plug that I will do, so like CodePath. CodePath is a phenomenal organization for students
Yeah.
interested in opportunities in tech. You can do free, unlimited coaching through CodePath. Once you hit week 4 in your
Wow.
course, you can
Yeah.
sign up to meet with me, to meet with people that have
Mm.
been at Microsoft and Google
Mm-hmm.
and all sorts of big tech. You want to do mock tech interviews, you want resume
Yeah.
reviews, LinkedIn reviews.
Mm-hmm.
It's free to you as a
Hmm.
student
Hmm.
as long as you're putting in the work. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's resources and opportunities to connect with career coaches that aren't like folks who are like, yeah, I got you. If you got $2,000 for my platinum graduate coaching package,
It's just like, what am I doing? What am
right.
I doing?
Now,
Yes.
if you
No.
got it like that and you find somebody that you connect with, I'm never knocking anybody getting a hustle on, but know that you don't have to spend a ton of money to
Yes.
be successful. There's so many resources. Get multiple opinions, get multiple perspectives, but most importantly, find the people whose voices you can trust to help cut through the noise.
Yes. So another question that our students have asked is about LinkedIn and Handshake. So what
Mhm.
are you actually looking for on a student profile for LinkedIn? And then you can kind of do the same like with Handshake. What are some of the best practices for that? Do you visit a student's LinkedIn profile when recruiting? Any thoughts you have in that LinkedIn Handshake space for
Yeah.
college students?
Okay. So LinkedIn, there's kind of like two modes that I'm in when I'm on a student's LinkedIn page.
Mm-hmm.
Scenario one is I am reviewing applications and I have come across your application. I am clicking on your LinkedIn as part of that application review.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want this to happen. There is a problem if I am doing this. If I am clicking on your LinkedIn while reviewing your application, it's because either you're missing that grad date and I'm hoping to go to your LinkedIn profile to find it,
Mm-hmm.
or I think you might be being dishonest about some of the stuff that's on your
Mm-hmm.
resume, and I'm trying to fact check.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so, like, if I, for the most part, I'm not necessarily looking at students' LinkedIn profiles when I'm doing
Okay.
application review, just on a
Mm-hmm.
casual basis. And the reason being is my volume. Like you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
I had over 15,000 resumes to review.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
I'm trying to focus on processing students
Mm-hmm.
quickly, getting
Mm-hmm.
candidates moved through the
Mm-hmm.
pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't even get into ATS and AI and all of that, but like it's all me. It's me and a mouse
Yes. Yes.
making all of the
Yes.
decisions.
Yes.
So
Are you
I
using
want to.
AI? You're not like you're kind of.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
There is no AI, no algorithm. It is
It's all Jaylyn.
me and my eyeballs. And
Me,
so because of
myself, and I.
that, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because of that, like, I wanna make sure that I'm spending my time on the application materials that I asked for.
Mm.
I'm not necessarily going on side quests on LinkedIn to be like, "Oh, I wonder what this might look like. What's ooh, interesting." Um, so in application mode, I'm, like, specifically looking for something and
Mm-hmm.
specifically looking at, like, "Ooh, interesting. You got one title on your resume, but your LinkedIn says something else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You said there was an
Mm-hmm.
internship on your resume, but your LinkedIn says it was a online course."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we don't want that. The other time that
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at student profiles is if I am just on LinkedIn engaging. So like if a student comments on one of my posts and says something interesting, I might be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
who is this? What are they? I wonder what they're part of. If a student messages me, I'm typically like clicking into their profile to be like, okay, wait, so where do you go to school and when do you graduate? Like, what's the scene? For students, I think just like general professional profile, give me a clean headshot, give me a headline that makes it clear what you're looking for, where you go to school, major sort of grad year, any major like organizational involvement in that headline. Dope. Have your about section filled out, have your experience section filled out. It's totally okay if you've got like bullets that just line up with what's on your resume. And then one of the nice things about LinkedIn is you don't have that like page constraint to worry about. You're not worried about length. You don't have to necessarily worry about having too much. So you can add all of your organizations. You can add any certifications. You can add, and by any, I do not mean first aid CPR.
Yes. You're a swimmer.
I see a lot of that. And I appreciate that y'all are doing your due diligence.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes people are like, well, I got something, like,
Duolingo might want to hit the slopes.
Yeah. So like be strategic about what you're putting. It's not necessarily meant to be like a dumping ground for everything you've ever done. And especially depending on when you got LinkedIn, go back a little bit. Like make sure you still don't have like random I used to work at Baskin Robbins when I was 16 years old. Like that doesn't need to be on your LinkedIn. But you've got the opportunity. And another thing that's cool that I think students don't always take advantage of with not Handshake, with their LinkedIn profile is you can add media. You can, you can add in that project section, oh, here's the project that I did for my hackathon, and here's the link to it. You can
The
add,
unbroken link.
Yes, if you were utilizing those project management skills to plan a conference, you can put in pictures of the conference. You can like really sort of add a little bit of color to the work that you're doing to help people understand kind of all the good work that you're doing. Like one of my favorite LinkedIn profiles from a student, it's just like packed to the brim. There's like two students that come to mind in particular where I'm like, dang, every time y'all always doing something. You always got something new going on. And so the more that you can talk about things that you're doing on campus, the better. I think and we could do a whole episode literally just on LinkedIn, but from a posting perspective, sometimes students don't know what to post. And so you'll go to their profile and the only thing that they're posting is, oh, I'm so proud to announce I got an internship. Oh, I'm so proud to announce I got a job. And like, those posts get a lot of likes and engagement and comments because people are like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like, proud of you.
Congrats.
And they're like, I don't know what else to post. And like, sometimes the things that people resonate with the most is some of those day-to-day insights. Like, rather than making the post. So I've seen a lot of like hackathon posts lately where people are like, so honored to have participated in the 5th annual New College Perspective Hackathon sponsored by Coca-Cola. I was in the city of Pittsburgh. It was a gloomy day, but me and my teammates overcame. And it's just like a 5-paragraph essay.
So true.
About what the hackathon was and wow, they're so grateful to the judges and their fellow competitors, like very press release.
Yes.
Give me a point of view. Like, I don't necessarily want the press release about the hackathon. Tell me the story of when the code broke in the 20th hour and y'all thought it wasn't gonna work and how you overcame that. That's interesting. Like, tell me about the project that you did for class that you like thought was cool. Tell me about what you're working on the side. To like have those conversations on LinkedIn. Like it does not have to be this like polished. And then I got a certificate.
It's like a acceptance speech. I mean, you're in pageant, so it's like that. The end when the question comes out, what do you think about world peace? You're like, oh, let me get my LinkedIn post together.
Right, exactly. And so like you got a certification, dope. I don't necessarily want the like, I'm so glad to have received this.
I'm
project
so
management
excited.
certificate. Tell me what you learned. Like, what are the
Uh-huh.
3 things that you learned as a result of that
Mhm.
certification? What's
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
thing that surprised you about the Data
Mhm.
for Good hackathon? What is
Yes.
the, like, unexpected moment that
Mhm.
happened when you
Mhm.
went to Afrotech?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
the photo collage and the 5-paragraph summary is not necessarily gonna be the
No.
thing that stands out and has, like, voice and
Mhm.
perspective and point of view. Like,
Yes.
I
Yes.
think people like my LinkedIn and my LinkedIn content because
Yes.
they
Oh,
can
they
see
do.
my personality in it, and
Yes.
not just
Yes.
because I'm like, "And this is what you should do." I'm like, "Okay, the CEO asked me about what I would do in an event of a zombie apocalypse,
Uh-huh.
and I said I'd die." Like,
Yep. Yep.
was it a good interview? No, but people resonated with that, and I was at least able to be like, "Okay, here's this story about, this crazy thing that happened to me,
Yeah.
but, like, here's the takeaway."
Yes, 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 yes. No, and that I think when it's not those big grandiose posts, because I work, I'm working with students on their LinkedIn
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's so daunting. It's overwhelming. It's like, what should I do? What actually I don't know what to post because this is the standard that I have in front of me are these
Yes.
really long big posts. But when what you're talking about, that point of view stuff, you have your own voice. I mean, I'm even working on it myself now of just saying like, Jerica, just write for you. You don't need
Yes.
AI, right? Just use your own voice. What do you have to say about this? And that is empowering. And it's a little scary, but I
Yeah.
think when it's not such a huge post and it's only a bite size, students can actually do that. So I think all of this stuff is really good, really helpful to get students to go out there and start posting
Yeah.
because it's what recruiters are able to see, and it'll help you be able to find different mentors and things like that as they come across
Yeah. Like,
what you're
there's a
sharing on.
student, literally came across my feed last night. Every
Yeah.
time I open LinkedIn, I'm like, "He always doing something else.
Uh-huh.
He
Uh-huh.
always talking about stuff. Oh, he done went to the Adobe office. That seems cool. Okay, artwork, and
Yes.
he's working
Yes.
on this." Like, and it's sometimes just stuff that's a work in progress. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be, here is the fully fleshed
Yes.
out,
Yes.
polished
Yes.
thing. It might
Yes.
be,
Yes.
show us the journey of working on building
Yes.
the app. What did you learn this week?
Yes.
What was a
Yes.
win that you
Yes.
had? What was something you struggled
Mhm.
with? What was something you learned how to
Mhm.
do? And if you're
Yeah.
not ready to
No.
post, comment, engage,
Mhm.
and interact with people. For Handshake, like the way that Handshake is set up from the recruiter end,
Yeah.
what we're primarily using Handshake for is posting jobs and
Okay.
sending email blasts.
Okay.
Um, the biggest thing though that student can do to be more effective with Handshake is
Mhm.
check it. I promise you, like, to this day, I'm still
Mhm.
getting message responses about internships that I emailed people about in October,
Oh,
of people
wow.
being like, "Hey, is this still available? Baby, we didn't close the
Yes.
application. I done interviewed the people, extended the offer."
They actually here right now. They coming through.
Right. Months have gone by, and so, like,
Man.
just staying on top of those opportunities, because Handshake is such a, like, wealth of information in terms of being able to find
Mhm.
internships, being able to find full-time jobs.
Mm.
A lot of the interactions that I have on Handshake, I would say one other thing that I wish students would do a little bit more of is be
Mhm.
more open-minded with your location. More so than
Mm.
any other platform that students reach out to me on, students on
Mhm.
Handshake, I'll message them and be like, "Hey, we've got this really dope internship opportunity for you." And they're like, "Oh, but I don't live there."
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
"Okay, but this is a really dope opportunity."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, rather than taking the approach of, "Oh, I can't intern in that city, I can't intern in that state because I
Mhm.
don't live there."
Mhm.
If you have questions about
Mhm.
the relocation, ask about that. Ask
Mhm.
about, 'cause
Yes.
their internships, like, we will cover their flight to and from the city that they're interning
Wow.
in.
Mhm.
There is a
Mhm.
housing stipend for internships.
Mm.
We cater breakfast and lunch in office every day. They can
Wow.
take home
Mhm.
leftovers. So, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
the
Yes.
expenses that you have, what you
Mhm.
might be envisioning is like, "Oh, I couldn't
Mhm.
possibly intern out of state." Ask
Hmm.
more questions. You might. Have you
Mm-hmm.
gone down to that
Mm-hmm.
career center we talked about earlier?
Yes.
See if they
Yes.
have any additional funding sources and opportunities
Uh-huh.
for students who are participating in summer
Mm-hmm.
internships. Like,
Mm-hmm.
find the
Mm-hmm.
pockets and
Mm-hmm.
ask the questions because the like
Mm-hmm.
your the internship that brings you to your dream role
Mm-hmm.
might be 500 miles away.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And the summer is
Yes.
the perfect time to test that, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you do a summer internship in a city and go, wow, I absolutely hate this.
Mm-hmm.
You going home at the end of the summer, you ain't got to go back.
Exactly. You didn't
It's
do that whole relocation
right.
to
It's
the
2, 3
place.
months. Now you
Mm-hmm.
know, hey, maybe this city isn't for me, or maybe I want to
Mm-hmm.
be somewhere else after graduation. That
Mm-hmm.
in and of itself is good information to have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think, staying on top of Handshake, looking at those opportunities, making sure you're opening the messages,
Mm-hmm.
reading in detail, like that's your best
Mm-hmm.
bet for leveraging Handshake to find opportunities. I think connection wise, networking wise,
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn is your platform
Okay.
in terms of finding job opportunities and
Mm-hmm.
postings for students.
Mm-hmm.
Handshake is the stronger platform.
Okay. 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 But both, you can find information on both, but yeah.
Yes, like, I think
Okay.
similar to how we have our board of directors for our
Mm-hmm.
guidance, we wanna have multiple tools for our
Mm-hmm.
search, and so being
Mm-hmm.
able to set aside time each week to say, "Okay, Imma make sure I'm staying on
Mm-hmm.
top of what's on LinkedIn, but Imma go peruse these Handshake
Mm-hmm.
postings."
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're a student that's at a university that doesn't have a partnership with Handshake, you
Mm-hmm.
as a student can still make a Handshake account, and that's
Oh,
free.
okay. Wow. Okay, so the last question is interview preparation. What are some practical strategies college students can use to prepare for job and internships, the interview? So things that you've seen that really help students be able to do that. And then that's, yeah.
Okay, let me give y'all my cheat code. So, where I see sometimes students going a little bit left in their prep is they'll maybe like Google common interview questions for insert
Mm-hmm.
job title here. And then they're like, okay, cool. So I found some questions. I'm going to script out some answers
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
just work on, memorizing my script to these answers. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
memorize,
Mm-hmm.
tell me about yourself. I'm gonna memorize,
Mm-hmm.
tell us about a
Mm-hmm.
time we were on a team. And I'm gonna just like, I'm gonna rattle that
Uh-huh.
off in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to craft answers for individual specific questions, because you may or may not be asked those,
Mm-hmm.
I want students to come up with a set of stories that they can pull from.
Hmm.
If you come up with 5 to 10 stories that you
Mm-hmm.
can reference and flip,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter what question they ask you, you've got those
Hmm.
examples prepped and ready to go. When we go
Mm-hmm.
script format and we prep for a specific question, the second
Mm-hmm.
they ask us a question that we don't have a script for,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh,
You're frazzled. Yeah.
and then there's like nothing worse than when you're in an interview and you can't come up with an example of something. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I know I've dealt with a conflict. That's a good
Mm-hmm.
question. A
Mm-hmm.
conflict. If you've got
Mm-hmm.
a set of stories that show you at your best and sometimes at your worst, ready to
Mm-hmm.
go, you
Mm-hmm.
can flip that for multiple of things. So, like, I was just talking to
Mm-hmm.
students the other day. I was like, hackathons, that is your interview gold. Tell us about a
Mm-hmm.
time you worked on a team. Hackathon. Tell us about a time
Mm-hmm.
you managed a conflict. Hackathon. Tell us about a time you had a
Mm-hmm.
task with ambiguous instructions. Hackathon. Tell us about a time
Mm.
you had to, yeah, anything. There's so many
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
that you
Mhm.
can pull. Tell us about a time you had competing priorities and you had to manage your
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Building an app in
Mhm.
24 hours sounds like
Mhm.
there's so many ways you can take that one experience to then pull
Mm.
out different things depending on the question.
Mhm.
Now, how are you going to prep those questions? So, this is where I like to use my girl ChatGPT. She and I locked in. So, you might take that job description, you put it in ChatGPT, you say, what are the
Mhm.
top 5 to 10 skills that they might be assessing for this role in an
Mhm.
interview? ChatGPT is going to give you some skills. We're going to come up with
Mhm.
stories for each of those skills.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. Uh-huh.
And then if you really want to get fancy, you can also have ChatGPT give you a mock interview based on those skills. And you can use the speech feature to say your answers out loud and get feedback.
Wow. Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
if you know the stories you want to tell, it's easier to flip and navigate an interview. And for my folks that are like, but Jaylyn, I get really nervous. And so it actually is very helpful for me to memorize really specific scripts. What I want you folks to do is when you're practicing, push through the mistake. What often happens for the people that script is that they will be like, okay, so, I was participating in the such and such conference, and then I did, oh, shoot, no, I forgot to say, and then they go back to the top of their answer. And every time they mess up, they go back to the top of the answer until they can do the whole thing right without messing up. And then you get into the interview and you're nervous, and now you've messed up.
Yes.
But you can't start your answer over. And you never practice how to push through when you make the mistake. So if you were someone who's like, I rely on those talking points, I rely on like knowing where I'm going, but sometimes I get lost or I get nervous, you've got to practice pushing through when you make the mistake.
Yes.
My last interview tip, you can have notes. I don't know who told students that like you can't.
You better have that
Just an
thing fully
exam.
memorized.
Like, if there's little stuff that you need to jot down, have stuff jotted down. Now, should you be like looking at a sheet of paper and like reading off? No, but if you are like, okay, I'm gonna have my little 10 stories or my like key examples, and I'm gonna just write down, such and such conference, such and such case study competition, that group project from my history class, just to jog your memory to be like, oh, a conflict.
Yes.
Sorority recruitment. Cool. I know I'm supposed to be talking about that. Like use your notes, use your space. I put Post-it notes on my laptop, like whatever you need to get through, like be prepared, but also give yourself the resources and the tools to be successful.
Yes. No, this is, man, Jaylyn, I feel like we went in a masterclass. I feel like we just had, everybody's listening, just had a masterclass. This was so good. This was so needed. And I know our students on the other side are going to just be like, our first and second just students just be writing down, taking notes and going out there. I feel like you gave us game for real. You gave us the real game, but also like how to start thinking differently about searching for jobs, how to start thinking differently about our resumes, about being on LinkedIn, about Handshake and all of that. And so if a student has not connected with you, where can students connect with you? How can students get in touch with you? If you offer any services or anything like that, let us know.
So I like a little boundary. I love kids.
Okay, yes.
But I love my life. So there are very specific places that you can find me. If you send me a connection request on LinkedIn, I probably won't accept it. But you can always follow me. So that is also a pro tip for students who are trying to connect with folks on LinkedIn. Follow them. That's going to bring their content into your feed, even if they aren't necessarily interested in the mutual connection. If you message me on LinkedIn, I'll always respond. If you send a little note with your connection request, we can cheat LinkedIn out of their money. Like, I'll respond to the message and then you can just message me. You didn't have to spend any money on InMail. We don't have to be first degree connections. It's a win-win for both of us. So you can message me on LinkedIn. If you are a student interested in roles in tech, CodePath is a fantastic organization. I do, like I said, you can access free, unlimited one-on-one coaching through CodePath. If you are a member, it's free to join.
Awesome.
You do have to do the coursework now. You do have to do that to get access to the coaching, but huge resource. So I meet with students one-on-one through CodePath. And then the last space is the app FIDE. I have posts about it on my LinkedIn, but I am active in a Ask a Recruiter Anything channel. So we do a whole host of things. It is quite literally like having the ability to text me just in your pocket. So students will wake up, ask
Wow.
questions, and you can connect with me and other early career experts and recruiters
Mhm.
who are in that space. We also do live streams multiple times a week. We just did our first
Wow.
resume review fest. So we were like,
Okay.
for I think 4 hours, we
Woo.
had a rotation of different recruiters and early career experts reviewing student resumes in real time on live stream. So you
Mhm.
were getting your own feedback, but also seeing feedback for others. So there are a couple like really cool spaces where students are able to connect. But if you email me, please don't. If you if you come across my profile on Instagram, no, you didn't.
You're like, wait, no. No, you're like, you better follow me on LinkedIn. So guys, you're
Yes.
hearing Jaylyn. She's saying follow her on LinkedIn and then check out CodePath and FIDE. Because those two opportunities, they're both free, seem really awesome in a way that you can have more access to this type of information that you need in order to be able to find
Yeah.
internships and jobs and how to navigate that path. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of the New College Perspective. I have really enjoyed having you on the show, Jaylyn. And as always, as I say to everybody that listens in, be kind to yourself because the world needs who you were made to be. I'll see you guys on the next episode.